Okay. So, the first thing I want to share with you today is that you can have a beautiful, fulfilling, meaningful life. In fact, if you think about it, what else are you here for? And I think that's worth actually considering because a lot of the time, what happens is that we're kind of just on autopilot. We just kind of wake up, start going, and then go to sleep, and then wake up and repeat, right? And if you don't really pay attention and question what you're doing and why you're here, then you'll probably just keep doing that. And if you just keep doing that, then imagine that you just keep doing that over and over and over and over and over and over and over, all the way up to the very last day of your life. And then what? Can you imagine that if you just keep doing the same thing? And then imagine that you've arrived at the last day of your life. Do you think that you might have some regrets about that? So it's worth questioning what you're doing and why you're doing it and what's possible. What is the purpose of your life? A lot of the time, what I've noticed, and I've noticed this in speaking with people, and I've noticed this in observing my own thoughts, and I've noticed this in reading the comments that I get on videos. Uh, a lot of people tend to make assumptions that aren't really working out that well for them. Assumptions about what life is about and who they are and all of that kind of thing. And it's not giving very good results. So people will assume that life is just suffering and that there's no other option. And depending on where you're at in this whole process, that might kind of seem shocking to you. Somebody would think that life is all just suffering. Or maybe you're somebody who actually believes that. It's really worth questioning, though. Just question all of the assumptions that you make, because if you're not satisfied with your experience, what are you thinking is going to make the change in that? Or put another way, what's the purpose of being dissatisfied with your experience? What do you think is going to come from that? What good will come from that if you just keep being dissatisfied with your experience? And so if you're dissatisfied with your experience today, and you don't make any fundamental changes, and then tomorrow you're dissatisfied with your experience and you still don't make any fundamental changes, and then the next day you're still dissatisfied with your experience and you still don't make any fundamental changes, then you're just going to keep repeating that until you get to the end of your life. And then you'll look back and you'll say, gee, I was just dissatisfied and I didn't make any fundamental changes, and now I'm still dissatisfied and my life was for nothing. Because if you kind of tell the truth about it, that would be the case, right? If you're just dissatisfied and you didn't make any changes and you remain dissatisfied, what was the point? What was the purpose? Like, you're going to get a certificate that says you made it through, congratulations. What would that do for you? Would that be actually any kind of real consolation? Like, I made it through. I don't think so. So my proposal to you is that, in fact, in truth, your life can be beautiful, meaningful, fulfilling, purposeful, that you can actually have that experience that is actually available to you. And it is a choice. Now, some people will then, so first of all, some people will just say, nah. And if that's the case, then honestly, I don't really have anything else to offer you. Right? If you just refuse to accept that as a possibility, if you're absolutely opposed to that possibility for yourself, really, there's nothing for you here. I have nothing to offer because my message is all about that possibility, that you really can live that life, that is possible for you. In fact, I suggest that that is the purpose of your life. Otherwise, like I've said, I don't see what the point is. So if you're on board with that, if you accept that that's a possibility for you, then probably the next question is, how? right? You say, okay, great, sounds great. I would really like to live that life that's meaningful and beautiful and purposeful and all those kinds of things. I'd like to experience all the joy and the happiness and the peace and the fulfillment and all that stuff. But how? So I'm glad you asked. So the how is all about you being present, learning, and making new choices. And that probably doesn't sound sexy and exciting, right? That sounds like, oh, that's kind of boring. But the amazing thing is that it actually works. So you can spend your whole life looking for the sexy, exciting stuff, thinking, I'm going to get the sexy, exciting thing that's going to do it for me. And you could just keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that. And again, you'll end up at the last day of your life and you'll have spent your whole life looking for the sexy, exciting stuff, but never actually have made the fundamental changes. I'm reminded of, and I don't know if John Lennon came up with this or if he borrowed this from somewhere else, but he used this line, life is what happens when you're busy making plans, right? And so a lot of the time we're busy making plans. We're thinking, oh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get that sexy, exciting thing that's going to fix everything. Boy, isn't that going to be amazing? Look how that's going to be. I'm going to be so special once I've gotten that thing. But you're just busy making plans, and then day after day you're busy making plans, and meanwhile your life is passing you by and your life is just sort of the same old, because nothing fundamentally has changed. Whereas if you just simply apply yourself day by day with presence, with the attitude of learning, with the intention of learning, then your life can transform day by day. And bit by bit, you can experience more of that beauty and joy and fulfillment and happiness and peace. All of that can be more and more alive in your life when you choose it day by day. And there are many ways in which you can do this. So it's not just one thing. So if you reduce it to just one thing, then probably your life will be somewhat one-dimensional. And it's not that the one thing, so one thing can be really powerful. So one thing can take you very far, but still it will probably be fairly one-dimensional. So for example, there are lots of very powerful one things. Okay, so we could say like the law of attention is a really powerful one thing. So the law of attention is that whatever you put your attention on, that's where your energy goes, and that's what grows in your life. So this is sort of the fundamental law of creation. This is how you create your experience. So it's super powerful. You want to know about that. You want to actually put some attention on that every day so that that can grow in your life, right? If you use the power of attention on attention itself, then you start to realize that, oh, this is something I can utilize in my life. You start to gain knowledge on that, and then you can start to apply that so that you can work with that and get the benefits of that. So that's super important and powerful. But if that's all you do, then as important as that is, it's going to be somewhat one-dimensional. So then there are other things like forgiveness. Okay, so forgiveness, super important. Because if you don't forgive, then you're just holding on to all of the old stuff. So if you're holding on to a bunch of stuff, and by the way, it's the stuff that you don't want, right? Like the stuff that you need to forgive is the stuff that you don't want. So if you're holding on to it, then just think about what the implications of that are, right? So it's like basically like I've got a big sack and I just fill it with all the stuff that I don't want, and I just lug that around. And I'm like, oh, life is so hard. Life is so hard. And looking around, isn't life so hard, everybody? And they're all lugging their sacks. Yeah, life's really hard. So when you learn this lesson of forgiveness, it's like, oh, I can take this stuff out. I can let it go. I can dissolve it. I don't have to keep lugging this around forever and ever, weighing down my life. So super powerful, really, really important. And it can take you really far. But again, one-dimensional. So power of attention, power of forgiveness. What about acceptance? Acceptance, also super powerful. Why? Because think about it. If you're not accepting, if you're resisting your life, then what is the implication of that? You're creating friction. You're making things difficult. You're making life way more stressful than it needs to be when you refuse to accept. You also make it virtually impossible to change anything if you refuse to accept, right? If I spend all of my energy saying no, then based on the law of attention, right? Whatever I'm saying no to, that's where my energy is going. So I get more of that, right? It's like, um, it's like this notion of what you resist persists. There's this, if you mix water and cornstarch or any kind of starch in the right ratio, you get this stuff that people call it oobleck. It's based on, there was this thing from a Dr. Seuss book, but it's called oobleck. And the nature of this stuff is that if you press it really slowly, then it resists very little and you can put your finger right through it. But if you push it really fast and hard, it firms up and it resists. So a lack of acceptance is like when you're pushing really hard on the oobleck, then you meet with all this resistance, and it's like a big no, and it becomes your whole life becomes this big substantial resistance, this big substantial thing that you don't want. Whereas when you practice acceptance, then all of the stuff dissolves, all of the resistance dissolves. Suddenly, all of this power, all this energy is liberated so that you can start to direct it to what you want instead of being caught up in what you don't want. So actually, since I'm covering these things, it's probably worth me I'll take a step back with forgiveness, because this is a thing that people get hung up on. So I just want to since I'm covering these things, it'll make sense that I give a little bit more information. So just so you can have good results with these things. So understand that with forgiveness, a lot of the time, people get hung up on forgiveness because they say, well, but I can't forgive because if I forgive, then that means something, right? Fill in the blank. They think that means something bad. Like, if I forgive, then that means that I'm condoning the bad behavior that other people did. If I forgive, then it means that that will happen to me again. By the way, that's wrong. It's the opposite. If you don't forgive, it will keep happening to you. But this is the thing that a lot of people believe. They think, if I forgive, then the thing will keep happening to me. The thing that happened that I'm not forgiving, that will keep happening to me if I forgive. Totally backward. Or they say, if I forgive, then I'll never learn. Actually, again, backward, right? If you forgive, then you can learn. If you don't forgive, you won't learn. But so you can fill in the blank for yourself. If I forgive, then what? If you have some negative ideas about what forgiveness means, it's worth investigating that to find out that that's actually not true. And usually it's the opposite. Because forgiveness is also, the law of attention is also operating there, right? So if I refuse to forgive, then I'm putting my attention on what I'm refusing to forgive. So with the law of attention, it doesn't matter whether you're putting positive or negative attention. Positive and negative is irrelevant. It's just simply the fact that the attention is going there, whatever it's going to, whether you're putting the attention on a positive or a negative sense, the attention still goes there. So if I say, I don't want to lose, I don't want to lose, I don't want to lose, I don't want to lose. So you're putting it on losing in a negative sense, but nonetheless on losing. So your attention is going to losing. If you say, I won't forgive, I won't forgive, I won't forgive, like whatever you're putting your attention on, it's going to that thing. So if you say, I can't forgive this person for this thing that they did, then your attention just keeps going to the thing that they did, and the negative feelings that you have about that, and how all the thoughts that you have about how that's blocking you from goodness in your life, and it's ruined your life, and it's held you back, and you're suffering trauma as a result of it. You'll never get over it, and yada, 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 all that stuff. So the more that you keep holding on to the lack of forgiveness, the more that you keep holding on to the stuff that you're not forgiving. So that's how that power, the law of attention works. So that's why forgiving is so important. When you forgive, then you free yourself from all the stuff that you don't want to continue to be holding on to. You're not condoning the stuff. You're not saying that, so if somebody treated you badly, if somebody abused you, when you forgive, you're not saying, hey, that's fantastic, I want more of that behavior. You're actually just saying, I now choose to let go of that so that I don't need to continue to attract that in my life. That's what you're saying. You're saying, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to be free of that. And by the way, I'm willing to allow the other person to be free of it as well. So it's not to say, I think what they did was great, but you're also saying, hey, in life, we all get to grow and learn. I want to have the freedom to grow and learn, and therefore I have to extend that possibility to others. I have to give others that grace as well. Because if I don't do that, then what I'm doing is contributing to an environment in which there's this sort of this energy, this mass energy that says people can't change. People can't change. People can't grow. People can't learn. And am I a person? Yeah. So then I'm included in that, right? So if I'm saying people can't change, people can't learn, people can't grow, that means I can't change. I can't move. I can't learn. I can't grow. So forgiveness frees me and others. But just from a selfish perspective, I'm really interested in me, right? It frees me to learn and grow and be happy in my life. So forgiveness is super, super important. Don't allow yourself to make any excuses for why you should not forgive, because it's just going to hurt you. So if you have any doubts about that, then investigate it, just as I've suggested. Just question what your beliefs are there. It's like, so if I forgive, then fill in the blank. What bad things do you think might happen if you forgive? And then just question whether that's actually true, because I promise you it's the opposite. You're actually causing more of those bad things to happen in your life by not forgiving. And when you do forgive, then you free yourself up so that you no longer have to attract those things to you. Acceptance. Okay, so acceptance also, people think, oh, well, if I accept, similar to forgiveness, they think, well, if I accept, then I'm just going to continue to invite that same kind of thing in my life. But it's actually the opposite. Remember, because of the law of attention, whatever you put your attention on. So if you're saying no, I won't allow this, but it's already here, right? Like the thing is happening. By the time you say no, it's already here. It's too late. It's already here. You can't say no until it's already here. It's like, try not to think of a purple striped zebra. You can't, because in order to do that, you have to first think of it and then negate it. So it's always like that. With acceptance, if you say, I will not accept, you're already putting your attention on the thing that you won't accept. Whereas acceptance is really just the release of that. So acceptance isn't really so much a thing as it is the release of the non-acceptance. Similar with forgiveness, right? So forgiveness isn't a thing as much as it is the release of the non-forgiveness. You're actually doing the non-forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't so much a doing as it's a release of the doing of the non-forgiveness. Similar, acceptance isn't so much a doing as it is a release of the non-acceptance. So it's a liberation. It frees you from what you have been putting your attention on, which is what you don't want, right? So if I say no, by definition, if I'm saying no, it's because I don't want it. Now, when I do that, I'm putting my attention and resisting the very thing that I don't want, therefore maintaining that in my life. Whereas when I accept, and I understand how people get tripped up on this, because they think, oh, but if I'm accepting, I'm using the law of attention to put attention on the thing that I don't want. But again, it's not that. It's that you're releasing the negative fixation on the thing that you don't want. So the acceptance is really just the liberation, where you say, I'm now freed to be able to put my attention on what I do want. I don't need to bind my energy into the resistance of what I don't want. So there's another law that's important to understand here, which is there's a law of cause and effect. So the cause is inside and the effect is outside. So by the time that you are aware of something outside, whether that's a thought or it's an object or a person or an event or whatever, but by the time you have awareness of something as a thing, it's already an effect. It's the result of something. So when you put your attention on that and you say no, then you're keeping yourself at the level of effect, which reduces your ability to produce changes because you can produce changes at the level of cause. So if something's happening in my life, well, anything that's happening in my life is the effect of some inner cause. If I keep my attention on the effect, then I limit my ability to produce the changes that I want, because in order to affect the changes that I want, I have to put my attention at the level of cause, which is within myself. So non-acceptance binds your attention at the level of effect, and it keeps you bound with the very thing that you don't want. Whereas when you accept, you're just acknowledging that this law of cause and effect exists. That's all you have to do is just say, okay, there's something that's happening. That thing that's happening is the effect of some cause. If I don't like that outcome, if I don't like that effect, if I'm not absolutely satisfied with it, then it's just feedback letting me know that I could change the cause and get a different effect. But if I lock myself into this resistance and I say, no, 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 this cannot be, this, I will not allow it, then I'm locking in place that very thing that I don't want, instead of allowing that to be feedback that allows me then to change the cause so I get a different effect. And what I do instead is I just lock myself into the very thing that I don't want. So understanding that everything, that the experience, the outer experience, any experience is always at the level of cause, rather at the level of effect. And the inner level of cause is where I can produce different effects in my life. So again, understanding the power of acceptance is really, really super important. So, the law of attention, forgiveness, acceptance, these are really powerful and important and can take you very, very far. But if you just did any one of these things on their own, then it's still one-sided. Another example would be releasing limiting beliefs. So should not be a big surprise to people here. Maybe it is, but I'm a very big advocate of releasing limiting beliefs. So releasing limiting beliefs is super powerful. It's something that I highly recommend. However, it works best in conjunction with the other tools. So if all you do is release limiting beliefs, again, it can take you very far. It can produce very powerful, positive effects in your life. So I'm not in any way suggesting that you should not do that. In fact, you should do that. It will be very helpful to you. But if that's all you do, then even though it's going to give you some benefits in your life, which could be very far-reaching and great, it's still going to be one-dimensional. So the point I'm really making here is just that keep in mind that you really are a multi-dimensional being. You don't want to be flat and one-dimensional. If you are only working with one tool, it's like this idea that all you have is a hammer, then all the world looks like nails. So if you just think through one lens and you just think everything is about limiting beliefs, everything is about the law of attention, or everything is about acceptance, then it will not give you optimal results. It can give you good results. I won't deny it. And maybe if you persist with it long enough, it could give you complete results. That's a possibility, but it's probably not the optimal way to do it. A more diversified approach, a more holistic approach, is more likely to give you more satisfactory results in a more efficient manner. And I'm pointing this out just because I want to be clear that the things that I talk about, I mean, obviously, each week the talk is about an hour, give or take. So I'm not going to be able to cover everything every week. And sometimes I get the sense that for some people, not everybody, but for some people, sometimes they get a little bit mm, like they'll hear a talk and they get inspired and they think, okay, this is it. This is the one thing. And they run with it for a week, and then they hear the talk the next week, and then they say they drop that thing, and then they go to the next thing. They say, oh, this is it, and they run with that thing. And then the next week they hear a new thing and they drop the other thing, and they go on this new path. But they're really all meant to be complementary. They work together. They're synergistic. You get best results when you keep all of these things in mind. Uh, and and so it really is. It's not a quick fix. This is a long-term approach. This is about your life. So that's also another important. I guess that's an important point to emphasize, because also sometimes people are getting, and I've talked about this before, I think that there's people sometimes are desperate, or they think they're desperate, right? So and then they get in this mindset of desperation, and they think it's so dire, everything's so dire, and this is the last possible opportunity, and I really need the thing that's going to fix it all now. And that's a bad place to be making choices from and operating from, because it's not likely to give you good results. I mean, if you just look in your own life, or if you look at other people's lives when they're making choices, or not even choices really, just making reactive decisions from a place of desperation, it usually, almost universally, does not work out well. Even in the rare instances when it does seem to temporarily work out well, it's not going to work out well in the long run, because and I've used this analogy before. I use this. I said, if you are making choices from or decisions from a place of desperation, it's like using a sledgehammer trying to fix your life. And if you swing that sledgehammer, chances of it actually producing the desired effect is really, really, really small. So small as to be basically a 0% chance. But in the very, very small chance that it does produce the desired effect, or something approximating the desired effect, that's in many ways even worse, because then a person can have this wrong understanding or expectation that the sledgehammer approach is going to work consistently, and it won't. Because if it does work once, or it seems to work close enough once, it will definitely not work a second time. So it's just not a good strategy to operate from desperation, where you just say, I need the thing, I need something, I need a quick fix. Instead, and if you really just take a look in your life, you've probably done that more often than you'd like to admit, right? And when you really tell the truth about it, you'll see it's not giving you consistently good results. In fact, it tends to land you more and more into places of desperation. So my proposal is that a better approach is slow and steady, right? Just say, I mean, first of all, just relax. I know that seems like too trite or something. Like, what do you mean relax? I can't relax. My life is a big mess. It's so desperate. It's so terrible. I can't relax. I don't even know how to relax. Okay, but hold on. You actually do. It's possible. You have that power right now. You can let go. And you don't have to achieve some perfect state, whatever you think that is. That's an important idea. It's an important principle that I often talk about, which is this idea of starting where you are. The image that I like to use is, if you've ever been to like an amusement park or something like that, and they'll have the maps posted in various locations, and then on the map it will have a dot that says you are here. So if that image makes any sense to you, then just hold that image in mind and let that be a reminder to you to remember that you are here, and this is where you need to be operating from, not somewhere else. So if in your mind you think relaxed means some kind of perfect calm state where there's absolutely no discomfort, where the mind is absolutely still forever and ever, and you're just in perfect bliss, and at the moment you're really tense and stressed out, then that's too big of a jump for you to know how to do that reliably and sustainably. That's not operating from you being here. That's not starting from where you are. That's trying to make some big fantasy leap that's not going to happen. That's like trying to use the sledgehammer. You're like, I just need the sledgehammer that will knock me into that place of perfect Zen. Won't happen. And if you got there, you wouldn't know how to stay there. But what you definitely can do is you can just tune in right now. And that's the invitation. Actually, just notice right now what's going on and feel into it. Just actually feel into your experience. And notice that you could actually let go of something. There's something you could let go of. And you could understand that at whatever level you understand that, right? So you could let go of some thought just for a moment, not necessarily forever. You could let go of some grievance. And again, not necessarily forever, but just for a moment, just now. Maybe there's some physical tension that you're holding on to that you could just let go of. And again, not forever, but just for now. And actually, if you pay attention, you could probably find a lot of those things. Just little things that you could let go of right now. Not trying to let go of it or get rid of it forever, not trying to figure it out or understand it, but just in this moment. Just letting go a little bit, not aiming for perfection, but just for what's possible right now. I call it the low-hanging fruit. Just notice what that low-hanging fruit is. Make it easy on yourself. Don't make it difficult. And then just notice, isn't that a little bit better? When you're not holding on to that stuff? Now your mind might say, but there's still all this other stuff and I don't know how to let go of it and I'm freaking out. Okay. But just notice what you can do, right? You can let go of what you can let go of now. And it's a little bit better. Now, imagine what it might be like if you practice that regularly. Remember, I said it's not going to be sexy and flashy stuff, right? It's super simple. It's the kind of thing that anybody can do, including you, which means for sure you can have success with it. But the thing that's kind of the letdown for the mind that says, oh, but I need the sexy, flashy stuff is, but you just got to do it then. That's it, right? Just regularly do it. So again, right now, just notice what you could let go of. And notice that that's a little bit better. And if it's not a little bit better, then just notice you're probably trying too hard, right? Like you're probably straining. And that's not what this is about. This is actually about letting go of something. So also notice if you let go of too much too quickly, then maybe you start to feel disoriented and uncomfortable. So don't do that. Make it comfortable for yourself, or at least approximating comfortable, something that's within the realm of something you could consider to be comfortable or sustainable. And then just notice or imagine what your life might be like if you just bit by bit, day by day, just practiced in that way. Might that give you a better foundation for your life? Might that allow you a little bit more space from which you could experiment and learn and grow in your life, where you could start to actually apply some of the things that I've talked about and other things, right? Like maybe from this space of just having let go of a little bit, maybe then you could explore how it is that you use the power of attention, like what it is that you want. If you're not so caught up in the desperation of trying to get out of the bad thing in your life, and thereby your attention isn't so wrapped up in what you want to get rid of, doesn't that offer you a little bit more space to actually notice what you do want? And then if you were to practice some acceptance and just accept whatever is here, whatever's in your experience. So maybe you notice that there's still physical tension that you don't know how to let go of completely. And if you were just to accept that, just for now, and if you notice that maybe you still have some old negative thoughts that creep up and you don't know how to let those go, but if you were just to accept them, might that continue to allow you more space so that you could then also continue to give some attention to what it is that you do want? And might it also offer you more space to consider the possibility of forgiving? Maybe forgiving others, maybe forgiving yourself. And you don't have to do some sort of wholesale forgiveness where you forgive everybody for everything always. I mean, that might be nice, but what about just something little right now? Like, is there some little thing, just some little thing, maybe just something from earlier today that you could actually choose to forgive, where you could just choose to recognize that you're ready to let go and move on. You're ready to be free of those old limitations, those old ways of seeing yourself and seeing others. You're ready to actually allow for yourself and others to grow and learn. And if you do that, doesn't that also offer you a little bit more space that allows you to put some attention on what you do want? And when you do put your attention on what you do want, and by the way, when you do that, it works really well if you just imagine that you can. Because sometimes the mind will say, but I don't know what I want. I can't know what I want. It's too difficult. I'll never figure it out. I've been trying for so long and it just doesn't work for me. You could just imagine, what if you could? Even if you don't know what you want, even if you haven't been able to figure that out, even if you haven't been able to put any attention on it up to now, just imagine, what if you could? And you still don't have to figure it out, but just imagine, what if you could? What might that be like? And then you could also notice, are there any limiting beliefs that come up? Like beliefs like, I can't be aware of what I want, or I can't play along, or nothing works for me, or I'm no good at this, or any kind of limiting beliefs, any limiting beliefs whatsoever that might come up. And then might you just choose to let go of those limiting beliefs? Not to get rid of, but just not to hold them so tightly, right? Couldn't you just choose that? couldn't you just choose not to hold so tightly to the limiting beliefs? So you might keep them, but couldn't you at least just choose in this moment right now not to hold them so tightly? And maybe in so doing, some new ideas, some new perspectives, new ways of seeing things might appear to you. And that might open up new avenues, new pathways, new freedoms in your life. Maybe a little bit more space. So all of this is just really to set the stage for what I really wanted to talk about, which was this idea that maybe you've heard this idea bantered about that if you can feel it, you can heal it. Have you ever heard that? Those kinds of cute phrases are always so nice, right? So I would actually, so I would say that the feeling is the healing. And a lot of times, though, I think what happens is that people misunderstand that. And then they try really hard to feel things. And if you're trying really hard to feel things, it doesn't usually work out very well. And then people will sometimes, just kind of uh, sustain these unwanted feelings. They're just like, I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it, I'm healing it, I'm feeling it. I've been feeling it and healing it for the last 3 months. I would say, then you're not doing it correctly. So, from my perspective, the feeling is healing when it's allowed, when it's natural, when there's an openness and there's just simply a surrender to it. There's no analysis of it. There's no judgment of it. There's no thinking about it. And this happens from an understanding. And that understanding is that in life, we encounter experiences and we respond to those experiences, or more often, we react to those experiences. And then we assign meaning to that. And that gets stored as an impression, which allows us then to, the idea being that then we can have that information next time we encounter something similar, which might be useful to us, right? So if you encounter, not that this is likely to happen in any of our lives today, but if you were to encounter a predator who was a hungry predator who was looking at you as a meal, and then you had some experience of that, but you survived, then all of the information from that experience might somehow be useful to you again in the future. Somehow that might be useful to you. And presumably from an evolutionary standpoint, that's true. But it's not a particularly refined system, right? So it's just that something happens, then there's an impression that's stored. And then that's recalled later when there are other conditions that meet the criteria that will trigger that impression to be surfaced in consciousness. So, like I say, it's not particularly refined. It's problematic when we're not actually present and conscious to be able to do anything with any of that. And so it's just a lot of junk data gets stored. Now, what's happening in our lives is that we're being triggered all the time, right? So there's stuff happening. Like you wake up, maybe you wake up and you think, I'm feeling great. Today's a great day. And then 5 minutes later, you get a text and then you spiral into some sort of bad state. And then maybe a little bit later on, you pick yourself up and you're like, okay, brush yourself off. Okay, it's going to be okay. I can still be productive today. Today's going to still be a good day. And then something else happens and then puts you into another state. Could even be a positive state, right? Like a state that you think you like, right? But then it's sort of manic, right? It pulls you away from what you want. You put in this manic state, like, oh, they love me, everybody loves me, I'm so happy. And then a little bit later on, something else happens that crashes that state. So this is all about being triggered. So being triggered is not just negative states. Triggered just means a state is triggered. So this is happening day in and day out, right? Every single day, every moment of the day, you're being triggered because there's so many impressions. Because you got all the impressions of this lifetime, and then you've got all the impressions of all the stuff that's there from all the ancestral data, right? So it's like genetic and epigenetic data. I mean, this is just at a physiological level, and then if you get into energetic levels, then there's other stuff, but maybe you don't even believe in that. But so we'll just stay with the physiological level, which most people probably can accept. So there's a lot of data, a lot of impressions, right? At an epigenetic level, there's data there stored about what your great-great-grandmother ate the day that your great-great-grandfather did something that she didn't like. So that data is stored there. And that's being triggered in you unless and until it's released. So the feeling is healing, from my perspective, is about allowing the feeling and allowing that feeling to be decoupled from everything that was layered on top of it, everything that was all the meaning that was assigned to it. So, great-great-granny was eating the pea soup, and when great-great-grandfather was, did the terrible thing. And she had this feeling. And that feeling then is associated with a particular meaning, which is bad. Can't trust men, can't trust life. Life is bad. Life's not safe. And so there are things that happen in your life, you don't know why, but you see somebody wearing a shirt and it's a particular color of green, and somehow that triggers this feeling in you. You have no idea. You're not even consciously aware of any of that, but it's happening. And then what normally happens is that we just pick up the whole package and run with it, right? So then we say, oh yeah, life's not safe, life's not good. That's what this feeling means. And what am I going to do about it? And we go into our strategies. So that whole thing then doesn't get healed, doesn't get released, because what you're signaling to nature is, this is good information. We need to keep it. This is useful, right? If you're indulging that and saying, yeah, this is true. Life's not safe. Life sucks. I got to stay safe. I got to do all these things. You're just telling nature, good information. Let's keep it. So that's exactly what happens. You keep it. So are you feeling things then? Yes, you're feeling things. So that's not the feeling that's the healing. The feeling that's the healing is when you actually allow the feeling with presence and you decouple the meaning from it. So you could do that right now. You could notice whatever feeling is here right now. You don't have to go digging around for a particular feeling, whatever feeling. You like the feeling, you don't like the feeling, you say it's a blank feeling, a nothing feeling, an empty feeling, whatever kind of feeling, it doesn't matter. Whatever feeling is here. So again, you don't have to go digging around and looking for it. It's just whatever's here. And then just notice that there are thoughts, meanings that are also happening. And you don't have to go digging around for them. Just notice that there are thoughts and meanings that are happening. And it's possible just to allow it. Don't make anything of it. Just be aware. Just notice the feeling that's happening, whatever the feeling, and notice the thoughts, whatever they might be. And don't do anything with it. Just notice it. So the temptation often is to assign meaning to the feeling. Say this feeling means something. But here you're just allowing the feeling without assigning any thoughts to it. So if thoughts happen, you notice the thoughts, but you don't make anything of it. You don't assign those thoughts as meaning to anything. You just notice that those thoughts are there, and you notice that there are feelings happening. And you can just notice those feelings are registered as sensations, right? That's how you know that you have feelings. It's just sensations. So you could notice there's a sensation. What's the location of the sensation? Just notice the location of the sensation. Notice the size of the sensation, right? Does the sensation, like, so maybe the sensation is in the chest. How big is it? Does it fill your entire chest? Does it go beyond your chest? Is it the size of your fist? Is it the size of a pea? Notice the other qualities of that sensation. Does it have sort of amorphous boundaries, or is it very well defined? Is it like a baseball, or is it more like a cloud? Maybe it has a temperature. You can notice many things about it, right? You can, and probably as you're noticing it, you might notice that there are things that change about it. You're just allowing it and noticing it. And any thoughts that come, you just allow the thoughts and just notice them, just like you notice the sensations. And you can just notice that the sensations and the thoughts are not inherently connected. They don't inherently go together. They might co-arise, but they don't actually go together. It's just a habit that the mind says this sensation means this thing because the thought and the sensation co-arise. But as you just notice, then you can see that it's just co-arising and that's it. This can be really powerful and maybe even a little shocking to notice that the sensations that perhaps for a very long time you thought meant something don't actually mean anything at all. They're just sensations. So by allowing with awareness, this is the healing that's feeling, or the feeling that's healing. And the more that you do that within what's comfortable or marginally comfortable for you, the more freedom that you'll experience in your life because you'll no longer be triggered so much. Because when you release these things, when you heal these things through this presence, then they don't get stored again. Because what you've revealed directly to yourself is that you no longer need that. It wasn't actually needed. It wasn't applicable. So that was what I wanted to share with you today. And for those who are here live, we'll stay on for the group coaching. And I want to make mention of a few things for everybody, including those who watch this on YouTube. So I have to remember what those things are. The number one thing is um, for those who are interested in participating in these meetings live, then you can get that information by signing up at my website at joylott.com, and there will be a link in the description on YouTube. And when you sign up there is now included is a free download for the book, which covers the 5 fundamental laws of creation. So some of those I covered today, but you can learn about all those in that book, which is available as a free download when you sign up on joylott.com. And I also want to mention that for those who are interested in a supported guided process for cultivating a very simple yet powerful practice in your life that will allow you to get amazing results, you may be interested in the Manifesting Truth program. It's a paid program that I offer, and you can learn more at joylott.com/manifesting-truth, and there'll be a link in the description below. And I want to mention that included in that is 9 weeks of group coaching. So that's an amazing opportunity for those who are interested in making positive changes in their life. So again, you can find out more at joylott.com/manifesting-truth, and there'll be a link in the description below. So that wraps this up. So blessings to you all, and I'm going to end this recording now, if I can figure out how to do that.